An exclusive investigative report has uncovered how an extraordinary vocal talent, once discarded by his own local industry, managed to break the records of the global entertainment ecosystem, proving that what local television screens presented was nothing more than an illusion. You are watching an exclusive, in-depth investigative report on one of the most astonishing transformation phenomena of this decade. Amidst the glitz of the modern entertainment industry, narratives about failure and resurgence are frequently manipulated for the sole purpose of television ratings. However, the story we are going to exclusively dissect today is purely about human mental resilience against an oppressive system. We are talking about the figure of Matty Juniosa. Turning back the clock to 4 years ago, this name graced television screens as one of the most promising competitors in a national talent search competition. The public was served sweet promises about the birth of a new star predicted to dominate the music charts. Yet, the harsh reality behind the bright spotlights told a completely different story. Instead of receiving a red carpet to the peak of popularity, the artist vanished without a trace, as if swallowed whole by the ruthless cycle of instant trends. Many speculated that his career was permanently finished, rendering him merely a footnote in the long history of wasted talent.
Our investigation over the past few months has attempted to trace the silent footprints of that 4-year vacuum. What we discovered through various documents and testimonies is not a story of someone who surrendered to fate, but rather a meticulously crafted plan executed with high precision outside the radar of local media. His transformation involved physical, psychological, and professional maneuvers so drastic that his old identity was virtually wiped clean. This investigative report will take you through the complete chronology, from his lowest point in his homeland, his perilous journey across continents, to the epic moment when he successfully conquered the most prestigious theatrical stage in the world. Brace yourself, because the details of our investigation will overturn every assumption you have ever held about the cruelty of the entertainment industry. And what actually triggered his desperate decision to flee from the public eye harbors a shocking truth that has been intentionally covered up by the industry's inner circle. Archival internal footage and anonymous testimonies from industry insiders have finally exposed the startling truth about the mental pressure and systematic discrimination that dismantled the career of this promising talent in his past. Diving deeper into Matty's history, our correspondents uncovered a deeply troubling pattern within the ecosystem of the music and television industry.
In front of the cameras, talent competitions are always packaged as highly inclusive platforms for free expression. However, in the dressing rooms and executive boardrooms, a rigid and uncompromising unwritten rule prevails. Matty possessed a vocal instrument of undeniable greatness, a rare gift that logically should have been enough to secure his position. Unfortunately, the industry demanded a very specific packaging. Our reports indicate that he was constantly forced into a commercial mold that in no way represented his true self. Our trusted sources revealed ongoing efforts to alter his appearance, restrict his artistic choices, and suppress his authentic expression to comply with highly conservative market norms. The repeated rejections he faced backstage were not based on a lack of talent, but because he was deemed too different, too bold, and non-compliant with the fabricated beauty standards set by network executives. The psychological toll of this covert rejection was immense. Facing a thick wall of entertainment bureaucracy that refused to accept him as he was, many artists in his position would choose to either submit to the system or face mental ruin. Rumors began circulating heavily among entertainment journalists at the time that he had lost his way, with baseless gossip suggesting he was entangled in personal issues that forced him to step down. However, independent data analysis of his digital footprint during that period actually points to a planned silence.
He was not destroying himself. He was completely re-evaluating his entire career and life strategy. The decision to unilaterally sever contracts and disappear from public circulation was deemed a career-ending move by local observers. Yet, from that very nadir of profound disappointment, a much more massive escape plan was quietly being drafted. And the destination of his flight this time was not just a temporary hiding place, but an international battleground where the competition was thousands of times more brutal than anything he had ever faced. Leaving behind all comfort zones in his homeland, his extreme decision to enroll as a migrant student in the heart of London triggered a series of physical and mental trials that nearly ended his dream before it even began. Our news report continues to the most crucial and perilous chapter of this investigation, his period of exile in the United Kingdom. In the first year of his disappearance from local media monitors, immigration records show that Matty landed in London purely with the status of an international student. The public might imagine life at a European art school as a romantic getaway, filled with luxurious facilities and classic architectural aesthetics. The reality we found on the ground is starkly contrasting and alarming. Surviving in one of the metropolises with the highest cost of living in the world as an immigrant carries an incredibly crippling financial and emotional burden.
Outside of his strict academic hours, he had to fight alone against severe culture shock, an unfriendly climate, and a profound sense of alienation. The theatrical education ecosystem in London is historically known to be unforgiving. These prestigious institutions are designed to systematically break down the egos of their participants before rebuilding their characters from absolute zero. As a newcomer, he was required to compete directly with thousands of world-class talents who had been accustomed to European stage standards since early childhood. There, not a single instructor cared about his status as a former television finalist in his home country. He was merely an examination number with no privileges. Academic documents and closed-door interviews with his peers confirm that there were long, dark months where he operated well below the threshold of human exhaustion, straining his vocal cords and pushing his physical limits in underground rehearsal spaces. The absolute silence on his social media accounts during this phase was not because he lacked achievements to share, but because he was inside the most intense incubation of his life. Every drop of sweat was kept tightly hidden from the public spotlight. He was well aware that a single complaint on the internet would trigger mass ridicule from critics in his hometown who had long awaited his permanent downfall. His psychological resilience was truly tested to the maximum limit of sanity.
Yet it was precisely the extreme pressure and isolation from the toxic work culture of his past that inadvertently triggered a massive revolution within him. A drastic and unimaginable transformation began to restructure his identity, something that would soon make the internet explode in total disbelief when the truth came out. While the public and local media had completely written him off as history, a series of leaked visual documents from his arts institution revealed a psychological metamorphosis so radical it rendered him completely unrecognizable. Entering the third year of the artist's disappearance, our editorial desk began detecting information anomalies through sporadic reports regarding the visual and musical reinvention of Matty. Further investigation into his latest portfolio uncovered a sociological phenomenon rarely seen in modern entertainment journalism, a total reinvention of self. This transformation was not just a temporary hairstyle change or superficial wardrobe modification like the marketing strategies commonly relied upon by commercial record labels. According to expert analysis, this was the literal and permanent shedding of industry trauma. Free from the dictates of local television stations and the normative standards that had choked him for years, he finally began to embrace his uniqueness without fear, expressing an artistic side that was pure, sharp, and completely unfiltered for conservative audiences.
In-depth vocal analysis from rehearsal sessions leaked to the public domain demonstrated a massive enhancement in technique. His vocal range expanded unnaturally, supported by a level of emotional control that could only be born from an accumulation of heavy life experiences. When amateur footage of his recent performances began circulating in various theater communities and underground discussion forums, shockwaves immediately spread uncontrollably. Independent pop culture observers we contacted unanimously stated that this maneuver was the most brilliant visual rebellion of the decade. He effectively used his body and vocals as instruments of resistance against the very parties that had marginalized him. Millions of netizens who accidentally stumbled upon his new profile could barely believe what they were seeing on their screens. Heated discussions instantly erupted across various social media platforms. Many communities fiercely debated whether this incredibly confident figure, radiating international star aura, was truly the same entity as the distressed contestant once seen on local television.
A barrage of speculations sprouted like mushrooms after the rain, creating a new mystery that provoked mass curiosity. The journalistic truth behind this mystery turned out to be much simpler, yet packed a far stronger explosive power. He had finally found a safe space to breathe.
And this absolute freedom instantly shattered the chains on his potential, preparing a retaliatory maneuver that would crush the ego of every media executive who had ever rejected him. That explosion of validation would subsequently occur on one of the most sacred stages on Earth. The inevitable historical moment of validation finally arrived with full force, systematically destroying all expert predictions as he claimed his position at the top of the food chain in the elite West End theater ecosystem. Our special investigative report reaches its climax with an official announcement that successfully shook the corridors of the entertainment industry across national borders. An official press release issued directly from the heart of London confirmed the undeniable fact that Matty Juniosa had not only survived and graduated from his brutal education, but had also skyrocketed straight through the defense walls of the most exclusive theater industry in modern civilization, the legendary West End stage. For some viewers who might not fully grasp the geopolitical map of global entertainment, it is important to note that the West End in London stands on par with the supremacy of Broadway in New York. It is a gladiator arena for theater deities, an institution where the standard of perfection is far beyond the comprehension of ordinary artists.
The objective fact that a former migrant student arriving with a language barrier and rejection trauma from a developing nation was able to secure a central role on that stage in just 4 years is an exceptionally rare statistical anomaly. In-depth coverage of his opening night described a theatrical performance that literally moved the souls of the entire audience. British theater critics, a group of journalists highly feared for their sharp, elitist, and uncompromising review standards, actually provided tremendous written appreciation for his emotional depth and mesmerizing stage mastery. In every second of his performance, he did not stand there as a representation of a minority group asking for diversity quota pity. He stood tall as a pure force of nature dominating the stage. The emotional moment when the theater curtains closed and the thunderous applause of a standing ovation roared from the international audience officially marked the end of his painful proving period. High-resolution footage of that historic night immediately exploded and went viral within hours, crossing oceans and landing directly as a harsh slap on the mobile screens of the television executives who had once discarded him. It was a perfectly elegant absolute victory because he didn't need to utter a single word of defense.
The sharp contrast between the local stage that once deemed him unsellable and the magnificent global stage that now adores him automatically created a flawless piece of journalism. And the direct impact of this cross-continental cultural earthquake immediately triggered a tsunami of reactions in his homeland, a reaction that ironically unmasked mass hypocrisy. Confronted with the reality of this flawless global success, the public narrative in his homeland reversed direction instantly, forcing us collectively to investigate societal hypocrisy and redefine authentic standards of success. Concluding our comprehensive series of investigative reports, let us critically examine the sociological impact of Matty Juniosa's name returning to the national headlines. Our editorial desk's social media algorithm monitoring system showed an extreme spike in the search volume for his name, which was embarrassingly accompanied by a highly contradictory shift in public sentiment. His comment sections, digital spaces that 4 years ago were filled with harsh criticisms about his appearance and cynical doubts about his future, were suddenly flooded with sky-high praises that felt incredibly forced. Prominent public figures and mass media channels that once intentionally ignored his existence were now elbowing each other, rushing to publish articles claiming him as a national asset.
There was a systematic attempt by the local industry to piggyback on the massive momentum of success that he, in reality, built himself, with blood, sweat, and tears in isolation on foreign soil. This 180-degree flip in public opinion underscores a deeply chronic sociological illness in how our society consumes entertainment. We are often too blind to recognize the raw diamonds right in front of our eyes until a foreign entity polishes them and stamps them with international validation first.
This epic 4-year journey presents a striking journalistic document about how vital a supportive environment is to the survival of talent. The conclusion is crystal clear and undeniable. A plant, no matter how magnificent, will never bloom to its maximum potential if forced to grow in toxic soil that restricts its roots. The story of Matty's revolution, from an outcast migrant student considered unmarketable to an icon dominating the world-class theater ecosystem, is an emergency warning for the power holders in the local industry to start embracing character authenticity rather than merely producing identical commercial puppets. From the news desk, this investigative report leaves a sharp question that demands deep reflection from all of you listening. How many more incredible talents are out there whose careers and mental well-being are currently slowly dying, simply because our society is too arrogant to see and appreciate their true worth?